This is me, Elena Carrasco. I'm here working in the Umoja coordination service in the training team based in Valencia. If you have been invited to this WebEx, is because you either are a peer of focal point or LP in source to acquire or in GDP, or you work in the acquisition unit in your mission, or you are a MDM focal point of peacekeeping and special political missions. Here with us, as I said, we have Emma Grant as subject matter expert, and you can make any question during the presentation. Here with me is Cyril Momo, who is helping in monitoring the chat. If we miss the question, we will review the chat at the end of the presentation.
I will be recording them as well, and just to avoid disruption, right? We'll wait. You will wait for Elena to complete the explanation with the support of the SME, and then we'll address your question. We are doing this also because of the nature of the audience. You have a larger audience right now, so we cannot allow everyone to speak up. So Elena will do the presentation. I will record the question and collect the question. When she will pause, she will answer the question along with the support of the experts.
Thank you, Cyril. This is the agenda that we're going to cover. As you see, there is nothing new. We're going to review something that you have been working on for a long time already, but that maybe from the point of view of our team, the training team, we have not digged enough in some of the aspects. So this is an opportunity to clarify and to go more specific through some topics. So we are going, first of all, we are going to remind that whenever we have the need to acquire a material, we can, yes, shopping cart is an option, but is not the first option to consider, as maybe we have the material already in the mission. We're going to have a review on the roles, and then we are going to, I would say that 2/3 of the presentation is going to be about the key master data used in the shopping carts. And basically, by key master data, we're going to focus on the product ID, just to give the importance that the product ID deserves. So we're going to see how to find the correct product ID. We're going to see what means characterized versus non-characterized product ID and when to use each one of them. We are going to see how important is the correct selection of the product ID by its impacts on the different modules across Umoja. So we are going to see, to have a review on its integration with finance, with logistics, with budgets. And also we are going to review some of the examples of the usage of product ID that we haven't, as I said, we haven't covered well enough in our past trainings. Specifically, we're going to see what is the usage of the product ID in solicitations, how do we deal with product ID when it comes to contracts for vehicles, with contracts with rations and bottles of water. We will provide a tool that you may be aware as well. It's a BI reporting created by our colleague Sasha that will help us or help you in the mission to identify what areas for improvement, what product ID has, what non-characterized product ID has been used, even what are the colleagues, that requisitioners that will need some training on the correct usage of product ID. So I find these BI reports very useful in order to find areas for improvement. at the mission level. Another key master data in creating shopping carts are the storage location and plant. There is still some confusion in the terminology of storage location that corresponds to inventory, and storage type, which is a term used in the warehouse. And then as it approaches the end of the budget period for some of the missions, we are going to review some tools in order to manage the pre-commitments and commitments made at your mission, beyond the all postings, document journal, and the fund management budget control T code, we will see it. So we're going to see different ways to monitor open shopping carts and POs, and to monitor materials in virtual storage location 9000. These reports are not specifically mandatory for requisitioners, but it's just an extra piece of information in case you want to be aware what are the commitments in your mission, or if you want to raise a shopping cart and you don't know if there are materials who have been virtually received and very soon will be received at the mission. So the need of the shopping cart will be left out, will be not used. So let's begin with the presentation. This is you in the mission, and you need a good, a material. So you have different options. This is a reminder. You can either acquire the material from the inventory on the stock, meaning the material has been already purchased and has arrived to your mission. Or as a second option, you can acquire the material via procurement. The material, if it has been already acquired in the past, it can be either in the same location as you are. In this case, you will raise a reservation, and then you will perform goods issue. And if the material is at your plant, at your mission, but it's in a different location as where you are, where the material is needed, you have different options in Umoja, which is called the intra-mission stock transfer, STO, probably you have heard about that, or intermission stock transfer. These are the different options in order to get the material you need when the material hasn't already been procured. If you run the reports and the material is not available in the mission, you will raise a shopping cart or a low-value acquisition. This session focuses on the creation of shopping carts, but remember that low-value acquisition should be set as default for inventory as well. And there is I refer a job aid that is in ISIC on how to raise low-value acquisitions for inventory. So, okay, we say that you as a requisitioner have two options, either to create a reservation or to create a shopping cart and low value. We're going to see some of the differences and similarities of both processes, both documents. You probably, as a requisitioner, you have as well the role of low value acquisitioner. So you will be able to decide among the three options. Reservations. What are the reservations? They are created to request materials that are already in inventory or stock in the plant. They are approved by the inventory senior user. They are created in Umoja ACC, and it references a product ID from the material master data. So we are going to compare it to the shopping cart or low value. The shopping carts and low value, they are created in order to request goods materials that are not currently in inventory. So we are going to acquire from an external vendor. They are approved by the certifying officer of the fund center They are created in Umoja SRM, as you know, and it references as well a product ID from material master data. Just give me a second. I'm going to nominate someone as presenter. Gianluca. Okay. I'm sorry for this. Okay, we can continue. For some of, if you are new to the system, this will be useful information for you. The role SA01 was the commission 1 year and a half ago, and instead of that, it has been created 2 alternative roles that cover the same function. The role SA02, it's the requisitioner direct procurement, and what enables this role is to, first of all, to check the inventory availability reports prior to requisitioner in order to decide whether the goods are to be requested through reservations or shopping carts. So this is the first action you will do. Then this role enables you to create shopping carts for inventory items and to create reservations. As well, we are leaving out the role of SA19, which is to raise shopping carts for consultant and individual contractors, which is as well out of the scope of this training. But if you need to raise shopping carts for consultant and individual contractors, you should request a specific role, SA19, for that purpose. Probably, if you have the role of requisitioner direct procurement, you have been assigned as well the role of low-value acquisitioner. In order to be able to procure for low-value acquisitions for inventory, you need to have the combination of 2 roles, SA08, low-value acquisitioner, plus SA02, which enables to set the items for inventory. Okay. Most probably, we in this WebEx, we hold the 2 roles, SA02 and SA08. So this is a summary of the key elements that I find that are need to be paid more attention when creating the shopping carts. And it's especially important not only in the source to acquire module, but it's important because it affects all many other modules in Umoja. It will affect the logistics, the budget module, the finance module. Basically, except for the travel module and employee self-service, I would say that the rest of the modules in Umoja are going to be affected by these 4 points that I'm going to highlight right now. So we have the shopping cart in the center of the screen, and the first and very important item to pay attention to is the product ID. Why? As I said, it's going to impact the product category and the commitment item. Therefore, it's going to impact the FM reports, the budget reports. It's going to impact the information that our colleagues in budget are going to visualize. It will also impact the GL account. Therefore, it's going to impact all the work that our colleagues in finance are going to do. It's going to impact the selection of the product ID. It's going to impact the contract catalog, the contract catalog utilization, the contract management. It's going to help our colleagues in procurement to decide whether to engage in long-term relationships with vendors. Is going to help them to decide whether category management needs to be conducted, etc., etc. And also the selection of the product ID will determine the serialization profile, the evaluation type, meaning new spares, old spares, the batch management of the material that we are going to procure, whether the material is going to be managed as an asset and is going to create an asset master record or as an equipment, etc., etc. So these are some of the impacts on the selection of the product ID. And this is all done at the level of the shopping cart and cannot be corrected later on in any process. Another important decision that it needs to be taken at the stage of creating the shopping cart is whether we are going to purchase for inventory or for consumption. The terminology here is a little bit tricky, as when we speak about purchase for inventory, in Umoja terms, is to purchase, it means to purchase as direct material, as you know already. So if we decide, as it happens for the 99% of the materials, we decide to purchase for inventory, some of the key master data will be to select the plant and the correct storage location. And if we decide to purchase for consumption, we will need to pay attention to the account assignment, internal order, WBSE for projects, unfunded, and cost center. Another key decision or key fields that are set in the shopping cart and will have an impact in other modules in Umoja, it's the Incoterm rule that we are going to select. This doesn't apply yet as of today to shopping carts, but in the next weeks or months, where the transport management module is rolled out, you will see that the Incoterm and the Incoterm location is going to become more and more important due to its impact in the module of transport management. So the selection of the Incoterm and the location will impact the transport planning, the freight cost estimate, etc. As you see, I know that this is not as of today implemented, but this is just an appetizer for what is going to come in the next weeks or months. And other important decisions that we need to pay attention to when creating the shopping cart are the default settings. We have default settings in general data as purchase group and storage location, and at item level. I mean, we will decide whether order as direct material needs to be checked, or if it's a fixed asset, then it doesn't need to be checked. And on the contrary, we will need to create an asset master record. We will need to pay attention to the delivery address, performance location, and delivery date, especially when the transport module is implemented in your mission for all the materials. If there are no questions or comments.
Yes, you have a question. And it's asking if you can still use the petty cash to move in the future.
Well, this is more a policy question. I don't know if our well, I don't want to give my opinion. I better leave the answer to Emma or Sasha, which are the experts in the business processes.
Hi, Elena, this is Emma. Sorry, could the question be repeated, please? I've got a very bad reception here.
Okay, Emma, thank you for joining, because I see you. So, could you use the petty cash to procure goods within the petty cash limit?
That's a very good question. No, petty cash is really not to be used now, unless it's a real emergency. And I do have some guidance that I will forward to Elena after this session so she can share it with you. But really, I think the old days of petty cash have gone, and there are some new rules in place for the use of petty cash and how to transact it in Umoja. So really, it's not to be used at all unless it's absolute an urgent case.
Dimmi sicuramente il panel.
I'm very sorry, I was just told that I'm muted. Let me go back to what I said. This slide has something old that you already know and has some news that are very good news for all of us. There are two ways in order to find the correct product ID. The first one is already known by everybody, except you are new. You all know that you can find the product ID in SRM. There is a piece of news, which is that very soon in the contract catalog, there is the plan to change the search criteria from contract reference number, which is an old reference, to the search criteria product ID. So this will, this is a good news that will facilitate the work for everybody. There is another option in order to find the correct product ID, which is the Material Master and Service Master tool. As you know, it's an Excel tool that is updated regularly. So our advice always is not to save the Excel in your desktop, but every time you need to find a product ID, go directly to ISIC in order to find the latest version of the Material Master and Service Master. This is how it looks like. You can find a little bit more on searching product IDs by watching a video tutorial. This is a link, a hyperlink to YouTube, to another WebEx we did on Material Master searching. So here are the news. And the news is that there is a new tool that will replace the MMSM tool, which is the Material Master dashboard. And it's great because it has one main advantage, which is the real-time data. Real-time for two things. Real-time in order to monitor your request for creation of product IDs. So in other words, you don't need to send any email in order to request the status of your product ID. You will be able to search by yourself what is the status of each one of the product ID that you requested. And also real-time Material Master search. This is how the dashboard looks like. And we are going to see, if you see that it has 3 tabs, we're going to briefly have a look at the 3 tabs. First one is request. So the request tab will enable the detailed view of all pending requests for service, as well as view of the finalized RFS during the last 3 months. The second tab is the Material Master tab, which enables the view of 3 types of master records: materials, spare parts, and services, updated in real time, in bold. So this is super useful together with the first tab, which enables to follow up on the request of the creation of new product IDs. Okay, I can specify, but maybe Gianluca, who is I understand, is the owner of this tool, is able to let us know when it will come into production and how they can access to it. Gianluca?
Yes, Serena, I'm here. Okay, the tool will come into production very shortly, probably for next week. The tool has 3 levels of access. One is the global for, let's say, New York management. The other one is for the mission of focal point for every mission. And the other one is just the only role. The difference between the focal point and the reader is that the focal point will require to have a proper credential to access the tool, and it will be able to see all the requests coming from the mission. The reader role will be available to any person in the UN. It doesn't require any access, and they will be able to see only the material master. So let's say they will be able to search, but they cannot see the request for the mission. So let's say that the expected date should be by next week. We are just doing the final test with some problematic missions like New York, and then I believe that by next week it will be published in ISIC, so that you can find directly the link in ISIC plus a presentation on how to use the tool.
Thank you so much, Gianluca. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just changed my headset, so okay, it's working. As said, the dashboard will have 3 tabs: the request, the material master, and the download, in order to download various documents, such as templates for requesting product IDs, manuals, policies, and other materials. This is the view of the request tab. As we see, there is an RFS number, and we see that it has different lines with different status. The line ID first. The line ID is the first column, is the unique identification number of each RFS line that can be used for the follow-up purposes. So if you request a number of product ID to be created, each one of the product ID will be placed in a different line with a line ID. Then you have the column, which is the 4th column, called material number, which is the TID number that will be assigned to the requested line. In this screenshot, we see that the first 2 lines are still in progress or duplicated, therefore they haven't received any material number yet, but the other 3 on the bottom, they already received a product ID number. And then you have the material description, which is the short description assigned to the requested line, and the status column, which will tell you if it's completed in Umoja, as it says for some of them, it's in progress, or the requested product ID is duplicated. And on the top right column, you will have a line info button, a green button, that it will open in order to provide more information, and also it's a place to have a dialogue between the colleagues working on material master and the requester. So it will be a place in order to have a conversation, in order to clarify what is the product ID requested. Then we have the second tab, which is the material master. as you see, it opens up into the materials catalog, service catalog, and spare parts catalog. And I said it's real time. So it's possible to select one of the three available material master catalogs, service, material, and spare parts. I know that you are aware of it, but just be reminded that in most of the cases, the product ID already exists, and it's a matter of finding or spending a little bit more time in order to find the correct product ID. Requesting product ID, of course, it's an ongoing activity, but throughout the time, it is expected that more and more product ID already exists, and we just need to spend a little bit more time in order to find the one that we need. Okay, so more on product ID. This is a slide that you probably are familiar with already. Product ID, we have three main types of product ID, are the fixed assets, and they are very particular product ID. You will recognize them because they begin with a 21, it's a 21 series product ID. Then we have equipment, which is serialized, and other supplies not serialized. This is a kind of a living document, meaning that technically the only thing that cannot be batch managed are the fixed assets because of the nature of the material. A fixed asset is managed individually throughout an asset master record, so therefore they cannot be managed in batches. And also fixed assets are always serialized with UN01 because they always meet the indicative value for determining the UN01 serialization. The rest of the classification it's kind of a living document, and it can be change as the needs arise, meaning medical supplies can be or not, depending. Most of them will not be managing qualities, but for example, we have the exception of the vaccines, whose the contract states that they will go through a quality level before being issued out. So, for example, ammunition, it's under supplies not serialized. It's a 15 series product ID, but is managed in batches. So we will have always examples, or we will set the product ID as they are required by the organization. Medical supplies, usually they are not serialized, but we find that there are 4 product ID which are medical supplies and are serialized. And for example, we have prefab materials that doesn't meet the threshold for fixed assets, so they are managed as raw materials, and they are still serialized.
Emma or any other subject matter expert would like to maybe to emphasize on the difference and exception between the products in this table, because I think we believe it's very important. Emma?
Sorry, hello, yes?
Yeah, Emma, I was saying, do you want to emphasize on the exception between, the materials, serialized, quality managed, and batch managed?
I think I can just add one thing in here. As Elena said at the beginning of the presentation, we know that you know how to do your jobs, and you've been working in Umoja for over 5 years now. So what we are trying to do is highlight some reminders and also for new staff. But it is really important when looking at the product ID that you're going to select to put on the shopping cart that you do understand this table and what it means from the selection of the product ID with regards to equipment being quality managed or being serialized. And I think that there are still some mindsets around the world that are still kind of thinking in the old Galileo ways. There have been some changes, obviously, since we went into Umoja, but we need to ensure that what we're purchasing, if it's serialized, we understand that at the beginning. And if we think that we're selecting something that's serialized and it shouldn't be, there is quite a good chance that there will be an alternative product ID for the item. As Elena said, there are a lot of product IDs in the system now, and really the new ones that are coming through are new goods and services that haven't been procured before, or spare parts for existing contracts. So it's really worth just to have a look and really ensure that you understand, because as we said before, a correct shopping cart ensures that all the downstream processes for warehouse management, inventory management, financial accounting, write-off, etc. are correct. And one little error on the shopping cart, as for those of you, because I see that, thank you so much, there are so many people on this WebEx session, but for those of you involved in the Piro project, the pain that you're going through to correct what was purchased incorrectly in the beginning is total torture. So hopefully once we've gone through Piro and we don't have to do that exercise again, it's a reminder that, you know, this selection and this, you know, extra 5-10 minute thought process on what is being purchased. And if you don't know, we're, you know, as requisitioners, we aren't the technical experts, so we might not, you know, have 100% knowledge on it. We need to ensure and check that what we're purchasing is correct, so that you know, we all do our different parts of job in the supply chain, and everybody can work together so we can get an improved, more efficient and effective process. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. We have also with us Sherry and Robert. If anyone wants to add anything, please feel free.
Sherry?
Sherry?
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? I think the thing I'd like to say is that on the slide itself, the chart is information that you should be reviewing on each product ID. It's not necessarily a chart of settings that are available for each of those material types. And if you find a material number or a product ID that the settings are different than what you're looking for, it may mean that you have not yet found the correct product ID, or it may mean that globally we're setting this product different than you have set it previously. So you do not always get a new product ID just to match exactly the settings that you would like to have, including serialized or fixed assets. They're all set globally, and each thing by the nature of the item only gets one material number. But you want to look at all of these things so you know what it means to the material that you're ordering. And if you do find something that you think is very wrong, you raise the issue. But the issue may not be that you get a new material number. It may go to category management for a reevaluation. It may go to property management for a reevaluation. And either one of those may not be a fast process because it may be a change in how we're addressing that item globally.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for the explanation. It's very much appreciated. We continue with the product ID topic. Some of us were wondering why sometimes we see strange icons at the beginning of a product ID, like here in this screenshot, and we wonder what do they mean. So basically, this symbol of approximate or greater than or admiration, exclamation, they are product ID that they are created as temporary during the GDP implementation, and they are still the system until the end of the life cycle of the product ID, but they are not to be used in new shopping carts. Okay. If you see that the product ID description begins with old and underscore, it means that it's a material that has been replaced for other reasons. So this is the explanation of the question on the strange symbols that some of the product ID have at the beginning of the description. Remember, do not create new shopping carts with this product ID. They will stay in the system until the end of the cycle of the materials, and then they will disappear. So characterized versus non-characterized. This is what we sometimes call it not so correctly as generic and specific product ID. The correct terminology should be characterized and non-characterized. So both, as you see, both product ID, both types of product ID are available in the material master, but each one of them is to be used for a type of document and in a type of instance. So if you think that, for example, this is the correct selection of the product ID is a little bit cumbersome, and you think that maybe other agencies, other entities who hasn't applied the inventory and warehouse modules are more relaxed in terms of the usage of uncharacterized product ID, the answer is that no, they are not more relaxed, that all the entities must follow the same criteria when using and selecting product ID. In other words, we are working in peacekeeping, SPM, and other offices. The offices are here as a footnote, and other offices are also using Umoja, like OCHA, UNEP, UNHABITAT, etc. We are using the inventory and warehouse modules, and other entities are not using these modules yet. Does it mean that we need to, they can use uncharacterized product IDs? No. As a general rule, we are using characterized product ID always in shopping carts, in purchase orders, but they also need to use characterized product ID, even if their purchases are set for consumption. Why? Because using characterized or more specific, more detailed, more accurate in the description product IDs will enable General Assembly reports to be aligned with the rest of the UN entities. So if when we publish this WebEx in YouTube, someone else that doesn't belong to peacekeeping or STM is looking at this WebEx, I just wanted to remind them that all these that we are explaining about product ID applies to all entities using Umoja, regardless of the implementation of inventory and warehouse. Okay, we only have an exception where we can use uncharacterized, or what we used to call generic product ID. And it's when we are going to raise an unfunded shopping cart in order to conduct a solicitation process. This unfunded shopping cart can have an uncharacterized product ID if we don't know exactly what is the requirement, and we are open in order to receive offers from the bidders. This is the instance where we can use an uncharacterized or generic product ID, and then in the second shopping cart, when the purchase is going to be actually conducted, we will change the uncharacterized product ID for a specific one. I'm going to explain it in a later slide. So remember, the same rule applies for all entities using Umoja. This is an example of material ID, a fixed asset. It's a little bit small, but the first line, it says all-terrain utility vehicle, and the second line, the description is more accurate, and it includes comma, and it's the characterized product ID. the material long description, which is this column, the fourth column, is key to identify the material ID because it describes the form, the fit, and the function of the material, and it provides sufficient specification to differentiate between similar items. Okay, so this is not new, but remember to pay attention to the long description on the material ID and to discard those ones that are generic or uncharacterized. The example of a spare part is a little bit different in the case of spare parts because the manufacturer of the spare parts and manufacturer part are used to define the material in the long description. Here, for example, we have a manufacturer is IKEA and the part number is 303.285.34. These two pieces of information are part of the description. Remember that the spare part vendor can be other than the equipment manufacturer, so it can be another manufacturer who produces spare parts. And the equipment manufacturer is not necessarily the part manufacturer. So I'm saying the same things with other words. The equipment manufacturer and the part number reference will define the part. This is just a reminder.
Before proceeding, a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
With current scenario where most of the items are procured for inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So could you give an example of the type of shopping cart that are now used for consumption?
For consumption, actually, there should be very minimal examples that of shopping carts raised for consumption. Even if you are purchasing for a internal order or for a project, everything should be by default procured for inventory, and then at the time of issuing the item from inventory, then setting the issuance against an internal order. Once I was told that except for newspapers and other things similar, everything should be set for inventory. I don't know if Emma has a further explanation on that.
Hi Elena. Following the Umoja rollout 2 years ago, obviously we did have some issues where certain items couldn't be purchased for inventory because we didn't have storage locations set up. And at the time, for the majority of the missions, it was aviation and security. I believe that most of your missions now have these storage locations. So I would say that the only exceptions that you really have for items that are not purchased for inventory are items that are purchased for DDRRR, which is, I know, MONUSCO, MINUSMA, some other missions that order stuff for the refugee camps and issue it out straight away. There is some IT equipment that was never registered in Galileo for security reasons, and so therefore is not registered in inventory in Umoja. But I think your CITS guides can provide further guidance on that. And obviously the general rule is everything is for inventory, but as Elena said, newspapers and other things, and especially things for public information, flip charts, bits of paper, you know, promotional stuff that comes in and just goes straight out of the door. You know, you've got to sort of use your own judgment on it, but for items like that, I would purchase for consumption, and then it's done at goods receipt. But for everything else that you're going to have as inventory and you want to be able to monitor, measure, issue out, especially on assets under construction, other construction projects, you want to be able to know exactly what you have in inventory. And if you purchase it for consumption, you'll never know that. So really it is the rule of thumb, everything is inventory, but, you know, use your common sense And if something is really going to be seen as ever being an inventory, then, you know, take the advice on it, work with the chief of the centralized warehouse. But that is my point at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. If we don't have any more questions or comments, we will proceed. This slide is just for information, as a reminder or for curiosity, and it's about the integration on the product ID with other modules in Umoja. I think that as an LPE, it's useful, or it's nice to know what is the integration and why we insist so much on the product ID, how it integrates in the funds management module. So it works in this way. Each product ID falls under a product category. So a product category has many product ID that are related to that category. And each product category is mapped to a specific GL account which derives the commitment item, meaning the budget or the funding for that item. You are going to see it better here. So we have a specific product ID, which has a nom, comma, characteristics. We have a product ID. This product ID falls under a product category, which is the same category used in UNGM, for example. Is the product category classified by the United Nations Standard Product and Service Classification? So all the entities using Umoja or not are using the same product category. As said, product category has many product ID under each, and it belongs to the source to acquire module. This product category is mapped to a GL account, and the GL account number is exactly to the GL account and to the commitment item. GL account, as you know, belongs to the finance module, and it will provide information on what items are being paid, basically. And the commitment item is under a commitment item class. And you know that the budget is allocated into budget classes. So this is the whole relationship between the product ID, the GL account, and the FN module. It is hardwired, meaning it cannot be manually changed if a mistake is found. The only way to correct this is to delete the shopping cart and to raise a new shopping cart with the correct product ID. Nothing can be changed, and it will carry any mistake until the last transactions, or in FI and FM. What is the impact of product ID in the valuation that we are going to have in our inventory? So purchasing a product at a particular price will affect the valuation, meaning the moving average price. You might have heard about that, of that material in the mission. This is a summary of the equation on how the moving average price is calculated. Basically, it depends on the price and the quantity and the associated cost, 8%, 20%. This is a simplification of the equation, but I wanted to highlight that, let's say, the moving average price is has to do with the product ID and the price that we are going to assign to this product ID. Let me put you an example. We are going to purchase for an inventory of a mission, let's say a low quality table that costs $10. So the moving average price will average the different purchase order of this low quality table and will provide a picture of the inventory value of this type of product ID, low quality table in the inventory. If we use the same product ID, meaning low quality table, by mistake we use this product ID and we are buying a high quality table that costs $1,000, everything will be averaged out in the inventory, and the report will show us that we have a greater inventory of the low quality table than the reality. I don't know if with this example I'm explaining myself, but what I want to say is that the selection of the product ID is going to provide let's say a report, a picture on the value of the inventory that we have by product ID. This is a screenshot of the T code MM60 that is going to reflect by product ID what is the moving average price and what are the different prices that this product ID was purchased with. Is it clear what I'm explaining? In other words, let me provide you another example. You know that the fixed assets have an inventory value of 0. So we need to, if we are purchasing an item that is not a fixed asset with the product ID fixed asset, it will enter into the inventory with a value 0 and vice versa. Therefore, it's very, very important the impact that the correct selection of the product ID is going to reflect on the valuation of the inventory, because each product ID will carry out a value. And mixing different product ID with different prices will throw wrong reports on the value. Is this more or less correct or understood? I think so. This is just for your information. This is an example of what I just said. We have many different product ID here. All of them belong to the same product category here, and this belongs to the source to acquire module. This product category, which is the same number to all the product ID, is hardwired to a GL account. Okay, so the same is not the same number, but the correspondence is 1-to-1. This belongs to the FI module, and on the budgetary side, you see the same GL account number is the commitment, corresponds to the commitment item, which is the view of our colleagues working in budget, and a commitment item falls under a commitment item class. And in the classes is where the budget is allocated. You will be able to raise shopping carts as long as there is enough funding within the class. But if you exceed this amount, then you will get a hard stop error in creating the shopping cart, and it's because of this. As said, this is all derived, you don't need to know, but what is important is to select the product ID correct from the beginning. And to show you as well for information what is the impact with logistics. Basically, the impact with the logistics is that the inventory is managed by storage location. When we want to check what is the inventory in order to decide whether we need to purchase or not, we're going to run a report to see what's available at the storage location level. The storage location is different to the storage type, which is another concept that belongs to the warehouse module. The storage location represents the general location where the items are inventoried, and also it represents the fund center that owns the item. So it is very important that the product ID accurately describes the corresponding physical items in the way they will be organized, managed, and used by their office. And as the storage location is linked to only one fund center, the system is able to derive the fund center details based on the selected storage location. So this is, for your information, what is the linkages between logistics and the product ID. This is just for information. A little bit on the storage location. Every plant, every mission is mapped with different storage location, which is where you set the shopping carts and the product ID in the shopping carts. there is a job aid that is mapping all the storage locations that are created as of now. Request for a storage location can be done through ISIC, but shouldn't be so common as of now they are almost created for all the missions. It's possible to create new storage location, but it shouldn't be a recurrent activity. This is the job aid where you can see all the storage locations by mission. And in order to finalize almost with the usage of product ID, this is a reminder that selection of the product ID impacts the material master, impacts the equipment master and the asset master. Selecting a correct product ID will enable the system to treat the material according to its features, and will enable the material to have the potential to perform many actions with it. Meaning, if we select a product ID that is an equipment, the system, Umoja, will enable us, the property management unit, to perform a lot of activities needed for that item. If we select a product ID, which is 21 series fixed asset, it will enable us to capitalize, depreciate, adjust, and retire, to conduct many transactions depending on the product ID. On the contrary, if an item is wrongly created as serialized item, as equipment, when in reality it's not, then we will need to deactivate the equipment. And on the contrary, if an item is wrongly created as fixed asset and it's not in reality, the item has no value in the inventory and it will need to be recognized and reevaluated by the finance colleagues. So in solicitation processes, when do we need to use uncharacterized and characterized product ID? This is the end-to-end of the solicitation process, and it begins with an unfunded shopping cart. And here is one of the scenarios where we can use an uncharacterized product ID when we want to purchase something, but we are not certain of all the description of the item. We can use in this unfunded shopping cart a generic product ID. The next step, it will be the RFX, which will have the uncharacterized product ID. And then, as a result of the RFX, we will have a contract or a purchase order. If it's a contract or purchase order, is at this stage where the product ID needs to be changed from uncharacterized or generic to specific. It is very important, this step, and not to be missed, is the change to a specific and correct product ID, either in the contract or in the PO. Once we have the contract, then we can raise a funded shopping cart using the characterized product ID and then the PO. In this way, this is the only way in order to make sure that we create flawless shopping carts with regards to the product ID.
Maybe before continuing, Elena, about error made at the shopping cart level. So once the good receipt process is complete, and then you realize that there's a error at the shopping cart level, what is the best way to handle the situation? So as of now, the equipment just disappear from the inventory.
Well, if by the time of conduct, the colleagues in R&I realize that what they are receiving doesn't match with the description or in the PO, the procedure is to reverse all the documents, the PO and the shopping cart. It's not only a long process, and it requires the approval of many different roles, the requisitioner, the certifying officer, the buyer, and the buyer approver, but also we run the risk that there is a change in the budget period and the new shopping cart needs to be recreated using the follow budget period. So I'm afraid, unless any of my colleagues disagree, that this is the only way. If R&I finds out that there is an error in the product ID, they need to reverse all the documents. Otherwise, the risk is that the inventory will not reflect the reality, and then the problem will perpetuate.
Oh, thank you, Elena.
You're welcome. Just to close with the product ID, let me show you 3 reports that Sasha Murganic created. We find it extremely useful in order to find areas for improvement, and as well areas where we are doing it well in terms of using product ID. These 3 reports are 3 BI. I'm going to go quickly, but I think it's better if the author of the reports explain them. This is the path in order to find the reports. It's in the shared analysis, essay report, Sasha Murganic, source to acquire dashboards. And these are the 3 reports: on low value, on POs, and on shopping carts. This is how it looks, the report on the shopping cart. I like it a lot because it shows you the number of lines with correct product ID, the number of lines with generic product ID, and the number of lines with unfit product ID. Here you have the top 10 product ID created with, in this case, generic product ID. You have the information classified by requisitioners, so you can see who maybe needs additional training, who's doing it really well and can coach other colleagues. On the bottom, you have another tab, which is by requisitioner. You will have similar information. At this point, I don't know if Sasha is there and wants to comment something.
Sasha, maybe you can.
I'm here. Thanks, Elena. It's basically just a new version of the report that was made for the GDP implementation, which is faster than the one that was including all the missions. So it's an indicative report because currently it does not allow us to be more accurate than what is it right now. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to make it more accurate. It will capture, unfortunately, it will still show shopping carts that might have already been fixed or replaced with a new one. So it's something that should give you indication, but you should also do a manual check in SRM before you take any action.
Thank you, Sasha. Much appreciated. I invite you to go and check the status of your mission. Also, you can see the regular fund and the cost recovery. It's really interesting. Let's move forward with the presentation. This is another topic that we didn't touch in previous trainings, and it's about product ID for vehicles and for rations. It's a little bit tricky, and we hope we can clarify during this WebEx. Vehicles, how does it work, the purchase of vehicles? You know that the purchase of vehicles is centralized at HQ level. It's done in New York. However, the requisitioners are in the missions, and it has some particularities. The requisitioners shall use the Umoja contract catalog, and they shall select a characterized, a specific product ID, whose price is displayed in the contract catalog. Vehicles are a fixed asset, so make sure that you select a 21 series product ID. And an asset master record will be created per unit of vehicle requested in the shopping cart. what happens that sometimes you are requesting not only the vehicle but also extra options to be built in the vehicle. Okay, so the options are also purchased at HQ level, and options are materials, extras in the vehicles, additional features that have a material product ID. The material product ID is a 15 series product ID. It's a supply not serialized, and the particularity is that they are to be purchased for consumption, not for inventory. So this is something to be conscious about. What happens then is that the fixed asset accountant will add it to the capitalized value of the vehicle. This is one of the particularities in the purchase of options and the vehicles. The options are received as a consumable via goods receipt and cannot be added in the inventory of the storage location in a mission. They are set for consumption and manually fixed by the fixed asset accountant. On vehicles, we have spare parts with price in the Umoja contract catalog, approximately 200, and then we have spare parts with no price in the Umoja contract catalog. How do we deal with both types of spare parts? So if we have a price in the Umoja contract catalog, we will select a characterized product ID, and we are a 12 series product ID spare parts. How do we manage with the spare parts whose price is left blank in the contract catalog? We select a characterized product ID, and the requisitioner in the mission will edit the shopping cart and include the price manually. This is how to deal with both types of spare parts. This is how you are currently doing in the mission. So there is a don't here. Don't select any uncharacterized product ID as an alternative to not finding the characterized spare parts, and request the creation of a characterized product ID if it's not included in the contract catalog.
Elena, sorry, I just had a network issue, so I've only just come back on. So I'm sorry if I missed anything. But before you go forward, can I just mention something on spare parts?
Yes.
Thank you. To everybody, I know that there have been real issues with the selection of the correct product ID, and I know that for some of you, the request process has been slow, the contract amendment process has been slow. Obviously, with this new dashboard, it's going to be much easier to find product IDs. We do have, and Gianluca will confirm it for me, we do have an SLA turnaround time of 3 business days when an RFS is submitted for a new product ID, as long as all the information in the form is fully filled in and correct. If they receive an RFS which has got incorrect or missing information, they can't respond within the window. So that is really down to your MDM focal points to ensure that they fill in the forms correctly. And the last point is on PD systems contracts. I know that you've had issues with getting responses from procurement division, getting contracts amended. If you have any issues, especially peacekeeping, because we're rocking up to the end of June, please email me. I will try and do as much as I can to assist you. But hopefully, as we move forward, we are learning, but things are getting better, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks for your patience as well. Let's move to another topic that is a little bit confusing, and it's the product ID for food, rations, and water. It's not always clear, and we haven't touched it in previous workshops. So contracts for food, fresh food or compact rations pack. So there are two types of rations. Fresh meal rations, it's for daily consumption. Okay, and in the Umoja long description, it begins with rations cost, just for clarification. It's a turnkey service, so it's a service that provides daily food as we see it. So the requisitioner shall select a service number, so a product ID that begins with 300, and the meals will not be put away and picked from the warehouse, as they will be consumed shortly after service received. So maybe this is new for someone in this WebEx. So the meal rations that are consumed on a daily basis are treated as a service. So we select a product ID that begins with 300, and then we conduct service and receipt. It doesn't go to the inventory. Then we have complementary returnable packaging and water distribution, and they have their separate service ID. We're going to see a screenshots in the next slide. Then we have other type of meals, which are the combat ration packs, CRPs, and this is for strategic stock, and I understand that the mission needs to provide reports on this type of meals. So this type of meals are material product ID, and the requisitioners shall select a characterized product ID, whose price is paid in the contract catalog. They are set RATs as rations, and are a 17 series product ID, and they will be held in inventory and managed in batches. And these are the rations that you need to report about. Then we have here a note that the PIDs and the GL account for fresh rations are being under revision, and in order to improve operations, budget, and reporting. Resolution and communication is still pending. There is a job aid in ISIC on processing rations and fuel. In my opinion, it's not so clear, but for your information, there is a job aid on that. So how do we deal with water? How many types of water we can purchase? So again, two types of water. So we have water for rations, for daily consumption. So water is included as a part of the turnkey services for food as optional item. Again, when we request this water for daily consumption, we shall select a service ID that begins with 300. And then there are separate service ID for military contingent, civilian personnel, UN police, military observers, etc., which derive in their own GIL account. This water will not be put away into the warehouse and picked from the warehouse, as they will be consumed shortly after the service received. It's very similar to the rations for daily consumption. Then you will be able, if you go to the material search tool, you will see that there are product ID for water, and you can, if your mission is purchasing bottles of water separately, you should select the contract catalog and select a material product ID. Bottled water are a 17 series product ID. Unless, I mean, different to rations, they are not managed in batches, but they are kept in inventory. This is a summary. So for daily use, what do we have? We have food rations and water. Food rations, they are service ID, and water is service ID. How do we manage them? We do a service entry sheet, and then we consume them. They are not moved into inventory, and they are not obviously managed in batches with expiration date. These are some of the examples for the product, for the service ID for food and water of daily consumption. And then we have other type of product ID, which is for food, for rations and compact ration pack and bottle of water that we want to hold in the inventory. They are managed in the inventory after goods received. The rations are managed in batches because they have expiration date, and the water is not managed in batches. This is the way they are treated in Umoja, and this is an example. We are close to the end of this WebEx session. We said everything we wanted to say that we believe that helps to create great shopping carts. We are adding a few slides because now it's the end of the budget period. Some of you want to monitor what is the open shopping carts, what are the open POs, what are the open commitments and commitments in the budget period in your mission. So beyond the document journal, the old postings, the T code FMRP underscore RFF MET 1AX, which we have used in many trainings, and beyond the T code FMABCR02, which we have been used extensively in many trainings, we wanted to show you as an extra some reports that can be useful as well in order to visualize the same information from different point of view. We want to see one tool in SRM, which is the workload redistribution, and then a couple of T codes in ECC. So the report, the role of buyer supervisor can actually access to this workload redistribution menu, and in this is a report. They can select if they want to look for requirements, PO, RFX, contracts. They will select the purchasing group they are interested. They will select always the UN purchasing organization, and they can search by the status complete or in progress. If they select in progress, the report will return all the shopping carts that are in progress assigned to a purchasing group, and they are waiting to be assigned, and they can assign it to a specific buyer. This is very useful because you remember that shopping carts are pre-committing budget. This is a tool in order to manage the workload of the team. This is basically what I said. They can also, if they find out that a shopping cart is in the correct, have been placed by mistake to the incorrect purchasing group, they can assign to the correct purchasing group. So it's a useful tool. In order to reassign the pending shopping carts that have been approved and they are pre-committing money, they have to select the document number. Always the purchasing organization is UN purchasing group, but then they have to relocate to a different purchasing group and responsible buyer. In other words, they will select the PO or the shopping cart by clicking on the gray box on the left. They will make the correct selection and they will click on go. Sourcing cockpit. This report is available to all the buyers for monitoring assigned shopping carts ready to be processed into solicitations or purchase orders. They also will see the shopping carts that are needed to be deleted and the funds to be released to the fund center. So the buyer will see his or her assigned shopping carts here in this column. The sourcing cockpit is the only tool that allows rejection of unused balances in shopping carts, and is the primary tool for managing open shopping carts, meaning in the sourcing cockpit, as you know, there are sitting shopping carts waiting in order to be transformed into POs, but also are sitting shopping carts that are the result of unused quantities in the POs the shopping carts, if they are not going to be converted into a second PO, they need to be rejected. So we make sure that the funding is made available again into the fund center. This action is only performed in the sourcing cockpit, and it's the buyer who has access to it. This is just a reminder, you know everything, but now that the budget period end is approaching, maybe it's useful to remind. In ECC, what tools do we have? We have this report, ME to N, purchasing documents per document number. It's a report, it's very powerful, and it allows monitoring of different purchasing documents and filtering by using different criteria. As an example, this report allows finding out what POs are due within the current weeks or the next weeks, and how many low values have been placed against the same vendor. As a scope of list, different parameters can be selected. So you can have ALB, grid control, or you can select purchase requisitions, purchase orders, entry sheets, etc. It's just a report. You can find other filtering criteria like planned for your mission, delivery date, if you want to find out what POs are due next week, for example, by vendor, by material, by product ID, etc. Additional filters can be added, such as direct PO low value, within mission STOs, budget relevant, within mission SDS, etc. So you can select document type and select among different filtering criteria. The only thing I find about this report is because it's so powerful, you need to filter a little bit in order for the report not to take a long time to produce the results. So it's my advice is to select many parameters to make sure that you stretch out the criteria. You can do that by using the dynamic selection. So you can select the budget period, the fund center, etc. And this is an example of the report. Basically, what we are seeing is the PO number, what is the vendor, the type is material, goods and service, still the amounts to be delivered, the plan, the storage location, etc. Depending on the settings, you will receive different results. But it's a way to monitor what are the pending POs to be received, for example. Another tool, inbound delivery monitor. This is in order to monitor what POs are under inbound delivery documents, meaning that the goods receipt needs to be conducted in the mission. If the goods receipt is not done, means that the PO is committing funding in the budget. So selecting the list of inbound deliveries will open a set of filters in order to create our own report. Receiving plan, delivery date, material. Another report that is a little bit out of the scope of your work, but is for curiosity, is in order to monitor what are the materials that have been virtually received and are in their way in transit from the let's say the Incoterm location to the mission. This can be useful, for example, if you are thinking about raising a reservation or creating a shopping cart. Maybe you want to check if there are materials that are virtually received and are in transit to your mission. The T code is MB5T, display stock in transit. And then you can enter the parameters in your mission, and you will see what materials have been virtually received, because the Incoterm in the PO was a virtual receiving Incoterm, and they are on the way to the mission. So maybe you decide not to raise a shopping cart, you decide to make a reservation of the items that are incoming to the mission. This, as said, you don't need to know, but maybe it's useful for some of you. And this is the explanation, how to read the report. And by clicking on the papyrus icon, it will derive to the purchase order, and you can find out more information on the purchase order. Okay. Also, if you click the mountain icon, it will drive you to the T-code MMBE, where it shows the stock overview. So you can see what items are in the stock, and maybe not to create a new shopping cart. We passed the end. Okay, this is the last slide. This on the inventory, on your mission, as I said. This is the last topic I wanted to show you. I am very sorry for that I exceeded the WebEx time. Thank you so much for attending this WebEx. If you have any questions,
Elena, can I just say something? First of all, Elena, thank you very much. I think that was a very useful session for everybody. I know for a lot of you, you know it, and it's a reminder and it's a refresher. But for new staff, and I saw a lot of names on the list of people that I didn't recognize, so I hope that it was really useful to you. Obviously, it's the main focus is on shopping carts and the correct creation, but obviously our focus with peacekeeping missions, unfortunately, is the end of budget. And I know Elena said it a great many times through the presentation, but please ensure that you're checking your budget, checking your documents, checking your unapproved documents, ensure that your contracts have got sufficient NTE. Please ensure that we get to 100% as much as we can. Remember that Friday is the 28th of June. We have requested for New York staff to be online so they can approve override purchase orders as they come through. But please remember the date and the time of obviously the 5:59 p.m. Valencia time. And two last things. If you're having to raise shopping cart POs to make additional payments to vendors for incorrect purchase orders that were created previously that you can't amend, where your items are already in inventory, please raise those shopping cart POs for consumption. Don't double your inventory by raising the PO again and then putting more items into inventory. And the last point, sorry, because I've got a good audience here, all the missions have been sent requests for SRM address updates. I know that this is painful and I know it's a difficult time of year, but it links into everything because the main focus is transportation management moving forward, but it will also ensure that you have correct addresses in SRM linked to your storage locations so that when the shopping carts are created and then the POs created, you have the correct addresses in there without having to free text in all the time the addresses of where you need to go. So if any of you have those and are still awaiting completion, sorry to raise names, but Unmiss, Monusco, Minujust, please can you get that done as soon as possible? And again, thank you to Elena, thank you to the training team. If there are any questions of a general nature, point them to Elena. If there's anything specific towards end of budget, email me and I'll see what I can do. And thank you again.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you again also to all the subject matter experts who contributed, Sasha, Sherry, Juan-Luca, and also all the attendees who gave suggestions and inputs, through the chat. As I said earlier, the session is being recorded. You will share the link with you after this session, and also I think 3 or 4 questions that I think I want to share with you with the answer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Before I leave, also I would like to hear about your comments. What do you think about this WebEx? It's a little bit different compared to the trainings that we did in the past. So I would like to hear from you in order to improve the future sessions. I will send you a link in Govici as well. A survey, exactly. Thank you so much for...
Sorry, Elena, one last thing before everybody logs off. I made a comment before about requests for PIDs and the turnaround time. That is the best possible scenario, but we have to bear in mind the resources of the team and all the other projects that are ongoing with them. So please bear that in mind, and obviously as you're good planners now and you're not doing things last minute, we won't need to have urgent requests put through at a very late stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. We're going to finish this session. Thanks again for everybody, and let's keep in touch. Thanks. Share.